Why we're opposing it.
Scott Simpson.
Mr Speaker, it's a pleasure to stand and rise in support of this Prohibition of Gangs Insignia in Government Premises Bill sponsored by my good friend and colleague Mark Mitchell, the MP for Rodney. It's always interesting, Mr Speaker, to follow the Honourable Phil Goff, a man who has been in this House for a long time. A long time he's been in this House, and yet he has not yet learnt that volume is no substitute for substance. Volume is no substitute for substance because buried deep in the socialist psyche, is a softness on crime and a softness on criminals. And Phil Goff in that speech was nothing more than an apologist for gangs and an apologist for criminal behaviour. This is a bill, Mr Speaker, that proposes to prohibit the...
A point of order, Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Speaker, I think any member of this House, including yourself, would take offence at being told that you were soft on criminals and that you had sympathy for criminals when that clearly is patently untrue, I think, of every member of this House.
I don't need any assistance. Look, I think from time to time this House expresses some quite strong views about other members, and I don't see this as... Well... It is a debating point, and it's an interpretation of the member's speech. I just think, now, look, I'm on my feet. Look, I just think we will make more progress if we just leave those kind of personal assertions behind and get on in debate. Scott Simpson.
A point of order.
I'll take Clayton Cosgrove.
A very simple point of order. Could you advise me whether the words being an apologist for criminals is offensive, because that is what was said. It was not even as... Can I finish my point of order? It was not as even, I think, as lenient as Mr Goff put. They were the words that were said, and I think they are offensive.
I'll hear Simon.
This is a House of Representatives with free speech, and if those petals on the other side want to get precious on this one, it is absolutely within order to say that.
Order. Now, the member spoiled it when he made an imputation on the other side when he was making his point of order. And that's the problem we get when we personalise. Now, I've expressed that it's unhelpful. In my view, I've heard much worse, and members haven't taken offence. I don't want to get into the ruling words out and a whole lot of situations which make life sort of difficult to police. I've just said to the House, let's show some decorum. We'll leave the personal stuff behind and debate the bill.
Point of order. The issue is this. Your ruling, Mr Speaker, is tantamount to saying that a member speaking in this debate shouldn't say that another member is soft on crime. It is absolutely fair comment, and the member should be entitled to say that 15 times in a speech if he wants to.
Well, if the member has interpreted my comments as that, he has probably energetically interpreted them, because the allegations that were made were a bit stronger than that, and look, it's time to just move on. Scott Simpson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Labor are soft on crime. Labor are apologists for crimes and criminal activities. The Labor Party, deep in their psyche, have buried the socialist psyche. Deep in their psyche is a softness on crime. And so, Mr Speaker, once this bill is passed, the bill will mean that our police force will have new powers to arrest offenders and seize their
Is that a point of order? Point of order, Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, you made a very fair ruling, and you told us all to tie-ho. That member who jumped up and down repeated the words that I used twice in a flagrant disregard for your ruling. Now, I ask you again to rule on it, sir.
Right. Look, I've said we should just move on. If the member noticed I was sexually diverted in my attention over a matter, and I said I don't want to get into ruling things out. Look, the member could have taken offence, or members on this side could have taken offence at a number of things the Honourable Phil Goff said. And that's kind of the nature of this place. Now, I've just said we get into a position of not making progress when we have all these points of order, and members just need to be a bit conscious of their decorum in the House. Point of order, Jamie Lee Ross.
Mr Speaker, I appreciate...
Order!
Mr Speaker, I appreciate your ruling. Could I perhaps just point out that the interjections are flowing both ways? It's not just one way.
And I have not asserted any one side is more at error than the other. In fact, I took pains to comment on both speeches.
Point of order.
Simon
Honourable Clayton Cosgrove has called me a liar, and I take offence at that.
Well, I didn't. I heard him use the word. I'm not sure what context it was actually in, but it's just an illustration of a member who gets up and makes a point of order about how something is inappropriate and then interjects by something which could be considered to be considerably worse.
Speaking to the point of order.
Well, I'm actually ruling on it. And what I'm saying is, let's just leave this stuff all alone and have a debate on the gang insignia bill. Thank you.
To the point of order.
Well, I've ruled on it, and I've said members across the House are behaving in a way that incites disorder.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, right. A fresh point of order, or what?
Well, it's just the point that, you know, that particular term is known to incite disorder, and the convention has been that members are asked to withdraw and apologise. He's admitted that he's used it. This member's taken offence. I heard him call
okay, offence has been taken. The member will withdraw.
I withdraw a point of order.
A point of order, Clayton Cosgrove.
I was asked to withdraw. You're not the Speaker last time I checked. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Points of order will be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not going to waylay this matter, but I invite you at the dinner break to go and reflect on the tape, because I accept it. I'm not challenging your ruling, but what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yes, exactly right. Scott Simpson.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Once passed, this bill will mean that our police force will have new powers to arrest offenders and seize their gang insignia. Police will have these powers within a few days of the bill being given the royal assent. And remember that the catalyst of this bill was made by the original sponsor of the bill, the Honourable Todd McClay. He put the bill into the ballot, and he did so in a response to the community marches against gangs in Murupara, which took place after the brutal murder of a youth who was murdered for no other reason than the school uniform he wore was the colour of a rival gang from the region. Mr. Speaker, I'm told that the Murupara area school has welcomed the changes this bill will bring. The school itself has already adopted its own zero-tolerance policy ban on the wearing of gang colours, and the chair of the Board of Trustees is reported as saying, Mr. Speaker, that the policy has proved very effective. He has acknowledged that this bill will give the school's principal yet another tool to reduce the influence of gangs on young people in that community. Labor are opposed to giving school principals more tools to cope with the dangerous and socially unacceptable criminal activities of gangs. Labor are opposed to giving school principals the tools they need to protect our young people from gangs and gang influences. Sir, this bill will give school principals that legislative tool that they need to call the police and have the school policy enforced and enforced effectively. It will give policy some teeth and will be enforced by our police force when and as required. When he rose to speak in the introduction of the bill, the Honourable Todd McClay said that it was not a silver bullet, but that it will reduce the influence of gangs in our communities. And I think he was absolutely right on that point. This bill is drafted in an extremely careful way, Mr. Speaker, and it's drafted in a way that will send a message that as a society we don't accept gangs and their thuggish illegal gang behaviour. Gang intimidation will be reduced as a result of the passing of this very good piece of legislation. Law-abiding citizens in our country of New Zealand will be offered greater protection from gang thug members. Victims will be offered greater protection, and I'm proud, Mr. Speaker, to be part of a government that makes absolutely no apology for putting victims first in our criminal justice system. The focus of this bill, sir, is all about further reducing the harm and very significant misery that gangs cause throughout the communities in all parts of New Zealand. Sir, I didn't sit on the select committee that considered the bill, but I do note that the Police Association supported the bill, saying that it would become part of a suite of changes needed to further undermine the influence of gangs. there was another submission, Mr Speaker, from a community law centre based in Pororua, which spoke of the stranglehold that the mongrel mob has on that area of this city in Wellington. Two of the law centre's clients, sir, had been murdered by mongrel mob members, and staff at the centre had worked with a 12-year-old girl who had been packed raped by gang members. The centre's submission said gang patches provided a conduit to fuelling fear in their local community, and Labor, to their eternal shame, oppose this bill. For gang members, sir, their patch is absolutely their being. It's what they, it's the physical manifestation, sir, of their lifelong commitment to the gang that they are associated with. And all the social ills that gang members attach to it are attached to the physical patch itself. For gang members, their patch is not just an item of clothing. It's far more than that. They will fight for it, they will die for it, and they will most certainly have committed criminal activities to have earned it. So the potential impact of this bill and its powers of confiscation and the disposal that will then take place will be powerful tools for our police to use in their fight against lawless gangs and their activities. Sir, none of us should underestimate at all the powerful influence and impact that the physical disposal of the patch itself will have. The confiscation and disposal is critical to undermining the influence of gangs. Taking away the gang patch takes away the gang members' mana, takes away their standing within the criminal fraternity, and it takes away their influence and their power to intimidate innocent victims and innocent citizens in our society. So, sir, I want to thank and congratulate Mark Mitchell and Todd McClay for bringing this very good bill to the House. It's a bill that I support. I know that members on this side will support it, and it's a bill that should be passed with a big majority and the huge support of this House. I commend it to the House, Mr Speaker.
Great. Chris Farfoy.
Mr Speaker, it's a shame that we had to